The Chicago Bears just signed a player who screams, he screams sky's the limit in this part of the season. It gets dicey. So many guys brought into camp on these contracts are just flashes in the pan. But the Bears, they've had some great things happen. I want to talk about Camry Chroma out of James Madison, a defensive end. If you look back, we've had some pretty good undrafted free agents, especially on defense. Jack Sanborn comes to mind. He's been great. Sam Mustipher, Roy Robertson Harris. If you remember, he made quite a bit of noise. And we've also got one on our defensive line in TJ Edwards. He's actually a linebacker. He was also an undrafted guy out of Wisconsin. He's one of the best tacklers in the league, hands down. GM Ryan Poles, he wasted zero time bringing his guys in here, and I just really like this guy. Defensive lineman, Jamry Chroma, and I'll call it the story on Sports Mockery, as I always want to give tons of credit to them, and they are just such a great source, and it's hard to find sources and information on these undrafted free agents, so I really appreciate this. Great job, guys. You've got this player. He was a total unknown after being at Rutgers, and then something shifted in a very good way. He's always had the measurables, 35-inch arms, explosive, he's strong. But once he hit the transfer portal to James Madison, man, he balled out in 2023 with 11 sacks and get this, 20.5 tackles for a loss. And I know what you're going to say before you poo-poo the competition. It was actually not lower tier. They played legit teams like Virginia, Troy, Utah State, excuse me. He's an inexperienced player, but he absolutely dominated every offensive line he was set up against. And we have an incredible defensive staff, and they're going to have a job to do with him. And frankly, I trust them to do it in this case. He's kind of a tweener without clear position in the pros. But I really like the work of Jacob Infante. His work is so on point. This is what he's had to say about Chroma. Look, he's quick off the ball with very good athletic ability as a pursuit defender in space. This helps him as a pass rusher and in the run game. His explosiveness sets him up as actually a legit threat as a 3-tech defensive tackle. Oh, man, if you look at his RAS score, his athleticism is silly. I mean, look at this score. It's just, well, let's go through it. It's unbelievable here. All right, here we go. If you look at this RAS score, I mean, look at all the green. His speed, it's elite. Many are surprised he wasn't drafted. I mean, look at this score. Elite numbers everywhere in the 40, in the 20 split, in the 10 split, a 9.18 out of 10 score in the 3-cone, a 9.93 score in the broad jump. And this is out of 10. Vertical at top of the scale. With these scores, I mean, he needs to add some size. That's the only thing lowering his score, but it's still an absolutely nuts 9.65 out of 10. It just seems crazy that he was here as an undrafted free agent. Why did he not get drafted? Let's kind of go back in his history. His senior year of high school, he had 27 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, and a pick. Rutgers took notice, right? He got at Rutgers. He redshirted his first year, and he got his chance in year 2. In his first game against UMass, got a sack, but then his playing time, it just kind of cratered. Coach Ash, he recruited him. He got fired. And he only played in 4 more games while struggling with injuries. And then he had an injury in his first game the next year against Michigan State under new coach Schiano. And that was during the COVID year. So you know what happened that year. And then he just couldn't seem to catch on fully in 2021 with the team. So he hit the transfer portal. Then he arrived at James Madison. When he arrived there, the situation exactly was how he envisioned it. And it allowed him to begin realizing his potential. I'm going to quote Chroma from a story on thetouchdown.com where they profiled him. So this is from Jamry himself. Everyone's career trajectory is different. For me, to jump from Rutgers to JMU, I saw some things start clicking. Being in the right system was important, and opportunities too. That last year at Rutgers, I really felt like I had more to give to the game. I wanted to go somewhere that allowed me to do a lot more, showcase what I'm about, and give me that platform to work for an NFL career. It was a big decision for me, but one I knew I had to make. I had to turn my career around. That first year at James Madison, It was night and day to what I put together the 4 years before that. So let's look at that. In 2022, he broke through a little bit, 21 tackles, 5.5 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, but that's in JMU's first season at the FBS level. They showed doubters wrong by winning 8 games in their step up from the FCS. Then they got in the FBS bowl game after a double-digit win season the next year in 2023. And in 2023, I don't know if you remember the college football season, that was actually one of the best defenses in the nation. And Chroma's explosion, that was a huge part of that. And once again, that final year with the Dukes, Chroma, he started all 13 games. He recorded an incredible 60 tackles, 20.5 tackles for a loss, and 11 sacks. It was exactly the kind of production he knew he could achieve if he put himself in the position to do so. And switching to JMU, that was the right move for him. And his hard work, his willingness to make that jump, that had paid off. And I just want to hear more about him. It's good to get to know these players on a personal level. And let's hear from Jamery. My coaches told me their plans that offseason, and I just attacked absolutely everything. I kept getting better and better and better in the summer in training camps. And so when the season came, I'd never been as prepared. We had a great year, but every team goes through some hardship. We lost some guys on the D line, but we just kept on going. And I felt like I stepped up to help the backups when they came in. You start to see things quicker on the field, the IQ, the knowledge it kicks in. It becomes intuitive. I became a big factor on the team and made plays I hadn't before. It was a journey of growth. But by the end of last year, I was a lot closer to the player I envisioned I would become when I started my college career. I shattered every single goal I had in my mind in 2023. It really put me on the map. So knowing all this, what do the Bears do with this guy? He played defensive end in college, but his bend, it's not elite, but his length, his explosiveness, his agility. I mean, you saw the RAS score filled with green in that metric, almost perfect. I think, and I think Chicago thinks as well, he could be a legit good pass rusher from the interior. At only 27, he'd have to bulk up about 20 pounds, but he has absolutely everything that Coach Flus loves. And I think there'd be a potential path to making some noise if he follows the way like Robertson Harrison did a few years back, spend the year on the practice squad, get his body, to the ideal measurables. But I think he doesn't have to do that, as Coach Flus hasn't had issues with tweeners in his whole career. What he values is versatility. And not only is versatility valued on the defensive line, you've seen it valued on the offensive line in spades. And I think that's why he might mesh so well with our GM. Our GM is sold out on versatility on the lines. So is Coach Flus. And so is Coach Morgan. I think this is just a really good mix of GM and coach here. And yeah, Chroma, he fits into this metric. He fits into this pattern. And he's a player that can play inside and outside. That's so perfect for this defense. And I'd say he's very similar to Gervon Dexter. He's not quite as big, but his length and his power, that causes matchup nightmares. And Chroma has that in spades too. This is the main guy I'll be watching in training camp in my book. He might pan out here. We'll know more then. And the fact that he went to James Madison, maybe that's why a big-time talent got ignored in the draft. I mean, you look at his measurables, you look at his production, his senior season at JMU. I think it's insane that he didn't get drafted, but I'm really glad that we brought him in. We had him in for visits before the draft, and every single player that we bring in as an undrafted free agent, I believe, every player that we drafted, we brought them all in for visits way ahead of time, and it shows the tenacity of this coaching staff, but also the tenacity of this scouting staff, actually doing all their homework, leaving no stone unturned. And with these few draft picks that we had this year, it goes to show that more and more we actually have to rely on as a team for these undrafted free agents, to some of them for actually to pan out, but also as the team gets better, as the team starts to increase in skill, as we get more and more talent here, there's not as much competition. It's become way harder to make this team than it was 2 years ago. So in order for Chroma to actually make this team, he's going to have to be legit good. And his physical tools, his production last year at JMU, I think he might be the most exciting prospect to come in as far as an undrafted free agent. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see him in our rotation in some capacity. But yeah, I think we found a good one here. You guys let me know what you think. It's hard to find full information on all these prospects. So if you have any insight, if you have any input, for sure, man, we're family. Uh, Leave me a comment and appreciate all you guys. Let's continue to grow this together and bear down. We are almost to training camp. See ya.